Hey VC, what's up? It's me, yours truly. I am back to post a quick video here. This is going to be a response to Aaron over at Aaron Mother Alamere, his channel. He put up his first thread ever. I actually saw JC's response to it, and yeah, it being his first thread, Aaron's a really cool guy, so I wanted to just come over and kind of jump on board and support his channel. And hope you kind of do the same thing. I'll put a link down below. Go check out his channel, go sub, and do a response to his first thread, which basically I think it's called was it like Super Grail or something like that? But simply put, he just talked about kind of the idea that most of us have a list of grails these days, and I think it's definitely a lot different than it was just even 10 or so years ago because. With the vinyl explosion and everything, I think there's so many albums that are on our list that we want that are considered grails now, where maybe before just the numbers just weren't quite as extreme, but there's just so much out there now. And so it's just kind of really saying, looking at that list, diving into your grail list and really kind of focusing on what might be considered super grails, which might be albums that you just have no faith maybe will be ever put in print again, or just the way I view the Super Grail is I feel like the probability of me ever owning it is very, 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 very low, like in maybe the 20% range or that type of thing. It's not one of those maybe one day I'll really find it and that type of thing. That's kind of how I view a Super Grail. And again, that's a very subjective thing, so everyone will see it differently, but just kind of showing you where I'm coming from. So these are some of the albums that I would love, love, love to have in my collection, but I feel like I won't, either because of cost or because I'll just never stumble across them anyway. So let's just kind of jump right into it. And I kind of have them arranged according to Discogs, median and high. Most I kind of look on the high side because, as you guys kind of know, with my collecting and kind of where I'm at in terms of criteria, pretty much anything that's not excellent to near mint, it's very, very, very hard for VG plus stuff to come into my collection. So I'm pretty much assuming that if I got any of these, they're going to be pretty much on the high side. So let's just kind of jump right into this. Number 10 on my list is going to start with Van Halen for Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. One of the cool things about working at the record stores, I should say plural, is that you get to sit around and talk about music and stuff all the time. The other, I should say, still kind of a good thing, but the other thing you typically do is you sit around and bitch about stuff all the time too. And one of the things that's a very, very common bitch is, why have they not gotten around to reissuing the Hagar years of Van Halen? 5150, OU812, Balance, Carnal, I mean the whole nine. I mean albums that were just humongous. I mean if they reissued that whole catalog, you're talking about 2 million sales like overnight. I mean it's just, obviously you have all the crap with the labels and all of that, but it just doesn't make any sense. But anyway, so for Unlawful Carnal Knowledge is definitely one that I've wanted for quite some time. Balance seems to come across my path all the time. I've had 3 copies of Balance, 2 of them sealed, and that's just one that never seems to avoid me. But Carnal, I've never had my hands on one. And we had one at the shop for a while, but again, $200 or so, I just wasn't quite willing to pull the trigger on it, even though I kind of regret it now. But Discogs are saying 86 to 120. But I mean, yeah, really, if you find one in excellent to near mint condition, you're shoveling out 200, if not more, for a copy of that. So one I would definitely love to have. So that's number 10. Number 9, my boy right there. I don't care if you hate him or not. I love him. Seal. That was his, I think, 1994 release. All his stuff is just self-titled. But yeah, fantastic album. Everyone, the song that most people typically know off of this, or the album is most well known for, I should say, is Kiss from a Rose, which got played out to no end back when that came out, especially when it got connected with the Batman movie and all that. But quite frankly, one of my least favorite songs on the album. A good song, but just not one that I go to at all. But Prayer for the Dying, Bring It On, Don't Cry. I mean, there's just so many amazing tracks on that album. But it was released in '94. I think there's a Brazilian copy. I'm not sure if there was a UK or not. I don't think there was ever a US copy of it. But you know, you're paying anywhere from 86 on the median to about 162 on the high side. And really, I don't know if I've ever seen one listed that was near mint on cover and vinyl. So I think if you found one of those, you're definitely shelling out 200 bucks for it. But yeah, would love to have that album. Even more so than an original pressing, I would love to have a just wonderful reissue 2 LP set of that. I think would just be phenomenal. I might actually like that more than the original pressing in terms of Grail or what I would like to have status. But let's move right along. Number 8. Bad Company, Here Comes Trouble. Had no idea this was even pressed on vinyl until a couple years ago when Melinda Murphy, you guys know her here in the VC, she held up a copy in a video and my jaw was just like, you've got to be kidding me. Great, you know, just Bad Company hard rock type album with one of my favorite songs by them, which is How About That. Fantastic. But yeah, those go for 95 median, about 166 on the high side. Would love, love, love to have a copy of that. Next, we have Firehouse, self-titled. You guys remember this? Don't Treat Me Bad, Love of a Lifetime, and a lot of just really great, I mean, B-sides on this album. Just a really, really, like, you know, just like a lot of bands during that time period, they got into the hair metal phase and they followed the formula, which was come out with some type of a hit, and then you have to follow it up with some type of a ballad, and that's kind of what every hair metal band was forced to do during the time. But then they get pigeonholed into that, and some people don't get into their B-sides, if you will. A freaking hard rockin' album right there, and just, you know, fantastic. But there's a guy that I work with who has a copy of that, and I never really thought much about wanting to own that on vinyl, and he had a copy and he brought it in and we played it and, you know, all that, and all of a sudden it was just like, okay, now I have to have it, kind of thing. So it made my super Grail list. But you know, 91 to about $180, and really anything that's excellent and near mint on that, you're paying right at 200 bucks for it. So number 6 on the list would be this one here, which I didn't discover really until recently that it had been pressed on vinyl back in '94, I believe. But Bone Thugs and Harmony, Creeping on a Come Up. This was their debut, technically considered an EP, but fantastic album right there. And these are going anywhere from $149 median to about $300 on the high side. But really, really great album. And one of the things that I love so much about this particular album is the fact that, you know, especially '94, kind of, you know, going into the mid '90s, you know, the gangster rap, if you will, thing, it had started actually, it'd been around for a good 5 or so years by then, 4 or 5 years, and it just kind of was what it was, which was it was turning into just any type of beat that you can make and just see how filthy I can be, you know. Just how much I can talk about killing people, how much I can talk about how many women I've screwed, my rims, my money, my blah, blah, blah. And that was just kind of, there wasn't a lot of substance to it, if you will. And the one thing that I loved about Bone is that they actually, I mean, they were willing to get dirty or violent in their lyrics, whatever the case may be, but they were musical first. Like, they actually put a lot of effort into creating beautiful music and a lot of stuff that wasn't just samples. So that was one of the things I think that they really did that, in my opinion, kind of not saved the genre, but definitely gave it a little more credit as being actual music and musical and musicians, if you will. So this album was freaking awesome on that. So yeah, it's gonna be $250 to $300 to get a copy of that, but at least they have done the Bone greatest hits, where you get a number of the great tracks off of that album plus some of their other albums. So at least good Bone stuff is accessible, you know, on vinyl for a very fair price. So moving right along, number 5. Judas Priest, Jugulator. Really solid album that sometimes gets forgotten in the Judas Priest catalog. This was when what's his name had come along for a couple albums when Halford wasn't there, and really is a solid album though. But you know, this was what, 97 or something like that, something in that ballpark. But so obviously finding vinyl from 97 is just not a very easy thing to do. So Jugulator is going for 300 on the median to about 425 on the high side. I mean, even the cassettes, you know, are going for 25 bucks now. So, but yeah, great album. Would love to have it, but you know, 400 bucks. Yeah, good gracious. Next on the list, heading over to the Sabbath side of things. This is Forbidden. There were those two Sabbath albums that came right before. Well, these were the two last Sabbath albums right before 13 came out, so it's definitely kind of further along in their catalog. With what's his name as lead singer. I always go brain dead with names when I start doing videos. But yeah, you know, really cool album. I mean, number one, again, it's kind of one that's a bit forgotten in the Sabbath catalog. But I just spun it like 3 days ago. I mean, it really is a fun album to listen to. I've always felt on this album there's a little bit of a mismatch, because I feel like Iommi's Sabbath riffs don't fully match up with what's his name's vocals. Like, he was almost pushing a little bit towards more. Anyway, wrong video for that. I'm getting into too much detail here. But solid album. Like I said, I just listened to it 3 days ago. It is a fantastic album. And Forbidden, 215 on the median, 476 on the high side. Good gracious. And then number 3 on the list is another Sabbath piece, Cross Purposes. And this was the album right before Forbidden. Again, another great one that oftentimes gets forgotten. 306 on the median side, 662 on the high side. So again, two very solid Sabbath albums, fun to listen to. And I would really love to have both of those, not just to have, you know, the albums, but those two would complete my Sabbath collection. You know, I would have all their studio albums on vinyl, including Tear, Headless Cross, and all of that. So would love to have those, but for $1,000 between the two, yeah. Unless somebody wants to send me some amazing VCOT, that's probably not happening. Let's see, number 2 on the list is this one here, which is A Love Supreme by John Coltrane. I would love to have a 1965 original US pressing of that. That would just be fantastic. Favorite jazz artist, that to me is the greatest jazz album of all time. And for a really nice, or just for a 65 US pressing, 315 median, about 601 on the high side. So you're paying $500 to $600 for a nice US pressing of that. And the great thing about that too, which I think is just awesome, is about, you know, that particular album, is that it is such a big album and so popular that it does offer something for everyone. You know, if you're a collector and you really want like a original US 65 pressing, I mean, that hardcore Grail status is right there on that, and you could search your whole life and never find one. At the same time, if you just want to have a copy of the album because it's a fantastic album, you can get brand new reissues for $19.99. And not to mention all of the mid to later pressings that you can get, you know, solid copies for $60, $80, $90. So it really is a great album where it's there for everyone, the listener to the collector and everything in between. I mean, that's really kind of awesome. I think that's cool. But if you do not own that album, that should be one of the first jazz albums you get in your collection, if you're starting a jazz collection. That, Kind of Blue, are two, by Miles Davis, are two you have to have. And number 1 on my Super Grail list, which I don't have a copy of, obviously, is the Ozzy Osbourne box set. I mean, I've heard a lot of people kind of say that, And you know, yeah, for those basically to get a copy of that, you're paying $1,500 to $2,000 for it now, um, which really kind of ticks me off too, because not even like the secondary market thing. I mean, that just is what it is. That's just supply and demand, what people are willing to pay. But it's just like when they come out with those sets, like even today, if they came out with the Ozzy box set, you know, not having the future to see they're going to be worth $1,500 down the line, it's like, but still, how many people really have $500 just to drop, you know, on a box set? You know, that always kind of bothers me too, because we've seen formulas like with Iron Maiden, for example. I know Phil Collins with Take a Look at Me Now, his box set that had all of his studio albums. You know, they came up with that nice formula of here's the box, here's two of the albums, the first two albums that come with the box. And so you buy it, and then over the course of the next few months, they release the other albums that go into the box set. And you just run out and grab the albums and throw them into the box set. And you can grab the albums at, you know, your local record store. If you don't have a record store near you, of course you can get them online. Barnes and Nobles were carrying some of them, you know, just like it made it very accessible for everyone to get the box set. And for people who couldn't drop, like myself, who couldn't drop $500 on a one set to make this order, but you can drop $40 every 2 months. You know, it's like, that's not as challenging for people. And eventually you have the entire box set, kind of like the Iron Maiden, the second box set. I mean, but when you really do the math on it, you spent $600 putting together that box set. So, I mean, I really wish they would have done that with the Ozzy box set. Now, I wish they would do that with other box sets as they come out moving forward as well. But, you know, anyway, that's another kind of, you know, sit around and bitch at the record shop kind of thing. But yeah, the Ozzy box set is definitely the #1 on my Super Grail list. And we'll kind of see what happens with that. Heck, I would be happy if they just reissued some of the individual albums, period. Even if they don't, you know, never did another box set of that kind or whatever. But anyway, we'll see. But that's my Super Grail list. So anyone that has any of that stuff and it's just, you know, sitting around and you don't want it, you know, let Mr. Hall of Fame know, and we'll go from there. All right, thanks for watching, VC. And as always, we will talk to you soon. All right, take care.